you have, again, a service monopoly where one agency is providing all the services in the county. If somebody has an issue with that agency, they are then banned from any service provision, and it's arbitrary. There's no external oversight. There's no, appeal boards or anything like that. It's up to the managers at the time. And if the manager doesn't like you, then sorry, you're out of luck. No more services for you. And everybody gets put in a standstill. And we've seen that recently where somebody got on the manager's bad side because they reported an impropriety, and boom, sorry, you're out on the streets, in minus 17. And that's just not okay.
Mary Ugolini for Rebel News, reporting here in Cobourg, Ontario, a small town about an hour east of Toronto along the 401 corridor. There has been an increase in petty and violent crime in the area amid homelessness, open-air drug use, and what seems like ineptitude by the elected officials and law enforcement to bring some form of community safety back into this community. The proliferation of homelessness is evidenced by a burgeoning encampment on the east end of town that has put a strain on emergency services. If you would like to see the previous report we did on this topic, please head over to fixourcities.com. There you can also chip in to support our work if you're able to. Now, in an attempt to address the homelessness crisis happening in this area, the upper tier municipality called Northumberland County has acquired this building here behind me, 310 Division Street, to the tune of over $2 million. It will be sold back to the emergency shelter called Transition House, a registered charity that is said to have a monopoly on the shelter and housing services within Northumberland County. A county that sprawls 1,900 square kilometers and has a population of almost 90,000 residents. And it's becoming more and more evident that their existing 18-bed shelter space and control of the adjacent church-based warming room are poorly run and inadequately delivered. Now, many are concerned about safety of the neighboring community, but also left wondering, will this be a similar situation to what just occurred in Halifax, Nova Scotia, where those living in tents chose to continue staying in an encampment situation and shun a brand new $3 million shelter facility? And what role does Canada, being the second most drug-addicted country in the world, play in the burgeoning issue of homelessness, a problem that is no longer reserved for the urban city centers and is now coming out to rural sprawl? We're going to once again hit the streets and talk to some people, get their opinion on this shelter space. We're also going to talk to two individuals who are well versed in the issues plaguing Northumberland County, why 310 Division will likely cause more harm than good, why the encampment on the east end of Cobourg continues to grow despite an eviction notice being issued last fall. Stay tuned. Hey there, we're asking people on the street today if they think 310 Division, the low barrier shelter space, is a good idea.
Nope.
No?
Nope, just not a good spot for it.
Why is that?
Right next to businesses, they're just going to be hanging around out front here.
People have to have a place to live. That's it.
Yeah.
That's what I think of it.
It's hard to tell. It's not easy decision. My heart is going this way, for citizens and for them too.
I think they needed a bigger place, and I think this is ideal. As far as I'm concerned, it's good. And from what I've read, for the policies in place, as long as they put them in, they got the security, everybody knows what it is, I think we'll be fine.
We're neighbors, and we have property in Cobourg. We all recognize that we have a need in the community. I'm concerned that because of the issues we've had with Transition House around the corner, which has been troublesome, there are a lot of people hanging around, the zombies, and we're concerned that on the way into our beautiful downtown beach and our downtown heritage section, that there would be people making a difference here that might discourage. So, we're worried about the low barrier and then people hanging around, and, it's right on the main drag, and it discourages people from coming into our town.
There wasn't really any consultation with people from the town in advance. It sounds like now it's almost a done deal, and they're just trying to get buy-in from people. We think maybe it's somewhere up near the hospital where county services already are might have been a better location. We recognize, we have to help people. We can't leave them out in the cold. But
But
This might not have been the best location.
Do you have safety concerns in the vicinity of something like this?
You know, fortunately, I'm not living in this area, which I heard a lot of bad things about. In my area, I never had any bad experience.
They got to get the drugs off the street because most of them are crackheads. I saw it when I drove cab here. It's just pathetic. Cops don't do anything.
A lot of the people that are moving there are from the camp, and they lived here anyways.
Right.
And, except for petty theft, is that there wasn't any problem.
They're just people that need some help, with a smattering of bad people in there,
Transition House, as far as I've heard, it has a monopoly on the shelter services in this area, and they will have a monopoly over this particular building. And it seems like they're failing at providing adequate shelter services and space to people. So
I think their policy too is like it doesn't offer stability. So if somebody gets a bed, then they're out after 90 days. That's not stability. They need some people to get settled, get fixed up. It's one thing, like I said, like the town says, oh yeah, we got all these services and available. It's one thing to say, well, here's a bed, see ya. Without any follow-up, without any seeing what these people actually need. If they do it properly, should be fine. But I think what's happening as well is that the police department is falling down on their jobs. They need to get out here and they need to be in the community. They need to get press, including our mayor, who can sit back in his chair and say, oh yeah, our heart goes out to these people, but I haven't seen him out, really sitting there and talking to them and understanding them and everything else. He sits back there and says, oh yeah, we got services. Same with the MPP.
This was all done in secret, and then the decision was made in November, and we were all told about it. But those of us who are professionals will look at the building. It's got substantial issues. It's got a bad roof. It's got the air conditioning system. All of that has to be upgraded. There's a lot of money that's going to be required. It's going to come out of our tax dollars. Is this the best building and the best way to have spent all this money? Do the people who made the decision understand the retrofit that's going to be required here and the ongoing maintenance costs? Who's going to be paying for that?
We saw the need in the community for a warming space, so we created a warming hub at our location in Port Hope at our old shop. We were shut down because we weren't technically zoned for. We were an industrial space. We were not zoned for residential sleeping. Couldn't have anybody sleep there, even though it was middle of winter and there was no other spaces. So I said I'm going to literally drive around the red tape, or at least that was the thought, by buying a bus to minimize those roadblocks. And still we've hit nothing but red tape with it because it is considered camping, and our biggest sticking point is the parking in anywhere in town, because it becomes a bylaw issue. You're not allowed to camp overnight. We tried it for a couple days here in Cobourg over the summer, and we're told not to come back until we had proper approvals in place. And just over those 2 nights, we were able to give out $200 worth of food, and we served 20 separate people just over those 2 nights for various services like Wi-Fi, desk space for people to do paperwork. People were able to get an actual night's sleep. Able to use the cooking facilities, things like that. So we knew the need was there. It was just, again, bureaucracy. At the end of the day, the policy stated that we as a bus were not allowed to park there overnight. The agency of Transition House on providing this service, it's like it is a monopoly at 100%, which is just created so many issues in trying to work with the county. Because they don't want to work with us. They don't want to work with another agency that isn't them, because it's not something that they're comfortable with or they're used to, because Transition House has just provided the Band-Aid, and that's all they care about. You have, again, a service monopoly where one agency is providing all the services in the county. If somebody has an issue with that agency, they are then banned from any service provision, and it's arbitrary. There's no external oversight. There's no, appeal boards or anything like that. It's up to the managers at the time. And if the manager doesn't like you, then sorry, you're out of luck. No more services for you. And everybody gets put in a standstill. And we've seen that recently, where somebody got on the manager's bad side because they reported an impropriety, and boom, sorry, you're out on the streets, in -17. and that's just not okay. And it just goes to show the overall lack of guidance and management at Transition House. And so if it's not working where they are now, why does anybody think that it's going to work with a bigger building? The real reason that 310 is happening is because they want to sell Brookside, and to justify evacuating the encampment as per case law, they need to have the beds in place. With the buddy bus and similar projects, we can deliver services where they're needed without providing infrastructure like 310 being set up in every community. It can just be there overnight and gone when the service is no longer needed. It's just been so frustrating trying to deal with all this red tape and saying, it's like they're resource guarding, but resource guarding homeless folk. It's just wild, and it's created a drive in me that I refuse to back down on it. It started as something that I just wanted to do just to help, and the more I've got into it and the deeper I've got, it's just become we're going to do this come hell or high water.
So the purchase of 310 Division was an excellent purchase in regards to addressing homeless issues. It's the purpose of 310 Division and how it's going to play itself out that I have an issue with. So to allocate that as a low barrier shelter facility, we've already got low barrier shelter through Transition House. That was done in 2019, if I'm not mistaken. So for the last 4 or 5 years, we've seen the impact of low barrier shelter without a plan. It's created chaos and reaped havoc. There's lawlessness going on and all sorts of social and business issues happening. Now, that property is a gem. It's got 40 plus rooms in it that was designed for self-contained individuals. We have a 10-year waiting list for individuals waiting for subsidized housing or to be affordability housing. We could lower that waiting list. There's 1,000 people plus on it by 4% just with that one purchase alone. So having said that, to allocate that to a broken methodology, it makes no sense to me whatsoever, especially when we're talking about $2.5 million with renovations, probably more than that. That's a huge investment of resources in a situation that has no guarantees. And here's the thing. If you tell me that that property will solve that encampment, get the help that those people need and make them more productive members of our society and get them off drugs and all of the mental issues that are associated with that, okay, show me the plan. Show me the plan, show me the cost, show me the impact, and I might sign on that. But right now, it's a transaction with a purpose that they feel might help. There is no guarantee that this is going to work. There is a lot of probability that this may make it worse. And I've spoken to those encampment people, and you've spoken to them as well. There is no guarantee they're going to show up. So here we are spending $2.5 million on a solution that maybe will not achieve any kind of result. So the solution is this homelessness term is an umbrella term. And when you look at the definition of low barrier shelter, it includes singles, couples, families, people with disabilities, people with pets, people with mental illness, people with health issues, people with drug addiction issues, all under one big umbrella. And you're going to put all of those people with all of those different types of issues under one roof and expect that it's all going to work out in the end. What the county needs to do, and every other municipality out there, is to stop looking at it as one big problem and start to segment the individuals that are affected and find silos for those individuals and the solutions that they require. Some it's affordability, they can't afford to live. Some is accessibility, there's no place to go. Some is mental illness, they need support and they need health care. Some is addiction issues. And we need to have a solution for that for them to be able to achieve, sobriety at some point. That's the ultimate goal. If we had no drugs, we wouldn't have half of the issues that we have right now. We wouldn't have overdose issues. We wouldn't have addiction issues. We wouldn't have crime issues. We would have still some, but they would be to a less extent. So to continue on this path of putting the same solutions over and over again in place and expecting a different result is the definition of insanity. And I refuse to use my tax dollars and every other business owner's tax dollars to be able to support an insane solution. And that's what I believe this is. We need a new approach. We need a new perspective. And here's the message. You cannot sit on the fence on this one, folks. You're going to have to get engaged one way or another because it impacts all of us. And at some point, you're going to have to be standing up and be counted no matter what side you're on. Whether you're for or against, whether you're compassionate or law and order, makes no difference to me. But we're all going to have a say in regards to how this goes down, because if we don't, the civil servants and the politicians that have no direct consequence to this. The people of Cobourg are the ones wearing this right now, not the people of Brighton or people of Port Hope, and they have all their own issues and everything else. But as the major urban center in Northumberland, this is ground zero. That's the social impact of how degrading this is in regards to our social fabric. And I'm not going to stand by without it. And I suggest that everyone else take a stand, whether you're for or against, but get engaged, get involved. This is an important issue, and it's a very divisive issue that's going to impact not just our community now, but our community for years and years to come.
While we're here reporting downtown Cobourg, we decided to take a walk down to the Frink behind me because it's a fountain in the summer and a rink in the winter, just to check out the scene. You can see that we've caught them on a day. The construction crews are adding doors to the Albert Street washroom facility that has been shuttered for the better part of a year and a half, as the space was being inappropriately accessed and used by those seeking shelter and using illicit drugs. Somehow, not sure the rationale behind this, adding a second door will prevent or deter this kind of activity. I'm not entirely sure what the rationale for this decision was, but apparently having a second entrance and or exit is going to help the situation, maybe to remove the porta potties that have served in place of this facility. Luckily, we are able to get the opinions of different individuals sharing a diverse perspective, and we'll be sure to continue to keep our ear on the ground on this story and follow up for future reports. For Rebel News, I'm Tamara Ugolini. Crime and chaos have descended on cities, towns, rural communities all across Canada. And if you want to see our coverage on these kinds of topics, please head over to fixourcities.com. At that website, you can find all of our coverage, but you can also sign our petition and you can support our boots on the ground journalism if you're able to. All of that and more at fixourcities.com.